In this episode, where do dreams come from? And why do Kazakhs never have bad dreams? Perhaps in a person's life, there are no more familiar and at the same time mysterious phenomena such as sleep and dreams. For hundreds of years, people have been trying to understand what our dreams tell us. Someone succeeds, and sometimes ingenious works of literature, music, and even scientific discoveries come out of dreams. Someone ignores the messages from the dreams, and as a result suffers the rest of his life or even dies under mysterious circumstances. Dreams have a huge place in the culture of many peoples, and nomads are no exception. What is a dream? There is still no clear concept of what dreams are. No one has yet answered what it is. Dreamers of the Great Steppe. In fact, there were professional dream travelers who served the population. Asian Dreamcatcher. If the Americans had this as an attribute for sleep or a talisman of sleep, then Asians, Turks, have an analog. The most incredible theories about the nature of sleep, scientific facts and myths of the peoples of the world, the revealed secrets in the history of the relationship of Kazakhs to dreams. Watch now. Do you remember what you dreamed about last night? Was it a nightmare or a good dream? Do you know what it means? My name is Andreas Slozhin. You're watching The Time Puzzle, and today where we'll try to solve the mysteries of dreams. For all the time of its existence, mankind has been living in successive rhythms of activity and calm. During the day, most of us are awake. At night, we sleep and restore our energy. Scientists call this rhythm of biological life a circadian rhythm, and in our everyday life, it is called the human biological clock. Violation of this cycle can disorient the body, cause disastrous changes, and ultimately lead to death. So, for example, it was found that a person tolerates hunger more easily than a violation of biorhythms. But despite a detailed study of sleep, scientists and psychologists still cannot give an exact answer. Why, at the time of sleep, a person sees various images and pictures. Psychologist Natalia Sanarova told us all about it. There's still no clear concept of what dreams are. A lot of research is being done and there's no clear answer. If we take psychology, then the most popular theories are those of Jung and Freud. Freud said that during sleep a person processes the information that he received during the day, puts it in place, and what he suppressed during the day. Everything crawls out at night and is being processed. During a long study of this topic, Sigmund Freud developed a theory that no one has yet been able to refute. It says that in a dream, a person recalls things about which he did not even know in a state of wakefulness that such things were stored in his head. That is, the subconscious mind writes all the information like a hard drive on a computer, completely everything. And there you can archive something or extract it. Then during the night, it operates on it, analyzes the information, puts it in place, and accordingly gives out some kind of metaphorical images that are like prophetic moments. That is, the subconscious processed, received some signals and brought it into a certain sequence of events that can occur. So, during studying the attitude to dreams in antiquity, researchers came to sensational conclusions. Even then, people knew about consciousness and the subconscious, which psychologists are talking so much about now. However, they call these components of the human psyche differently. Here is what a literary critic, a specialist in mythology and literature, a senior lecturer at the Department of Journalism at the University of Turan, Valeria Korotkova, says about this. In mythology, there are such concepts as night consciousness and day consciousness. That is, daytime consciousness is rational and nighttime consciousness is irrational when the universe communicates with us with the help of images or some hints. And we see that all the ancient cultures of the world agreed on this. It turns out that Sigmund Freud is not the first to share our consciousness and subconscious. In antiquity, there were also people who understood the intricacies of the human psyche. These were healers, shamans, and priests. In almost every culture, there's a certain caste of people whose task was to clarify the meaning of dreams. As a rule, such a person combines several positions: an interpreter of dreams, a fortune teller, and a doctor. In nomadic culture, Baxi and shamans were engaged in the solution to dreams, but there were individuals who specialized exclusively in the interpretation of dreams. People called them Tushi. The historian and writer Arman Nurmuhanbetov told us about it.
Фактически были, так скажем, профессиональные путешественники по снам.
In fact, there were professional dream travelers who served the population. Obviously, only desire is not enough to become a Tushi. More precisely, it is not considered at all. There is such a thing as hasiyat. This is a kind of sacred gift. It is usually inherited. If among the ancestors there were carriers of hasiyat, then it is possible that someone from your generation of brothers, or even you, will become its owner. But it also does not depend on your desire and what form it appears. If we turn to the world history of civilizations that once lived on Earth and in different parts of the planet, it is clearly noticeable that everyone had a similar understanding of sleep. For example, the ancient Sumerians believed that the god Shamach sends them a dream. But the Jews believed that through dreams, Jehovah God speaks with people. The Egyptians also believe that dreams are certain messages of the gods through which they warn us or guide us to any deeds or feats. Of course, the Greeks had first of all the heroes of sleep. They had a god of deep sleep hypnosis, hence our term hypnosis. And they had a god of dreams, Morpheus. And the word itself means form. This is also interesting. Then it was believed that all the dreams and all the people that we see in a dream are nothing more than the transformation of Morpheus, which takes different forms and shows us some pictures. The Greeks, according to researchers, were among the first to start a thorough study of dreams. Attempts to decipher dreams occupied a priority place in the culture of this civilization. So, for example, the Greek philosopher Plato said, "Reason must extract from the dreams the portent of the future." We see already in the most ancient epochs the phenomenon of sleep is considered as some kind of receiving information, let's say in an altered state of consciousness. We see that the phenomenon of sleep is always considered as communication with the gods, with the other world. People always believed in something mystical, in spirits, and they searched for channels of access to communication with higher forces, higher intelligence. This generally was normal, therefore I think that it's already in our DNA. It's genetically laid down that we're looking for something mystical, something unreal, something interesting. Why did the Kazakhs believe that there are no bad dreams? From ancient times, Kazakhs regarded dreams as some mysterious signs that their ancestors sent them. A great importance was given to the interpretation of dreams. It is curious that the same dream had several interpretations and it was rarely negative. The candidate of philological sciences, poet and translator Kaira Janabayev told us all about it. The nomads' dreams, of course, they were always positive and not misinterpreted. That is, it was considered bad matter if a dream interpreter says something negative. The Kazakhs even have such a saying that a bad dream is a fox droppings. That is, there is nothing to pay attention to a bad dream, because it all passes and there is nothing to worry about. In addition, the deep life philosophy of the nomads, their understanding of the world was like there were no purely bad things. It's just that the world lives by its own laws, and these laws must be reckoned with. For example, a wolf is bad for his sheep, but for a wolf cubs, it is a parent who feeds them with lamb meat. The same applies to creatures that live beyond the human world. They're not bad, they're just different, unlike us. But a person should be afraid of them and be careful. This opinion is shared by the Tengrian shaman Hovagan Tabet Kam. Turks, they never prayed to Tengri, that is, they did not ask him. They only thanked him. The Turks understood that the Tengri would not protect them, would not love them, would not guard them. The Turks, as they say, the great Tengri gave you life, the great Tengri gave you great opportunities, the rest is up to you. And they asked for help, protection, support from the arwahs, from the tribal spirits, from the spirits of the area, from anyone, from the spirits of fire or other elements. Such an attitude to the surrounding world and the world of spirits was common among nomads, up to the arrival of Islam in this region. In Islam, there is a belief that jinns send bad dreams to a person. Similar explanations for nightmares exist in other world religions. Also in traditional religions, there is the concept of the inevitability of death. The ancient nomads had their own special relationship with death. In the nomadic tradition, if death arises in front of you, then you have the opportunity to live with it. You can delay it, you can deceive and confuse it. That is a great many possibilities. And a person himself decides which way to choose with his actions, his steps. The origins of people's beliefs concerned many researchers. People were wondering why in the same night the same person may have both nightmares and good dreams. There are many theories about it. Here is one which is the most common. From the point of view of science, the sleep process can be conditionally divided into two phases, slow and fast. The slow phase begins immediately after falling asleep and consists of 4 periods of different durations. A person first falls asleep for about 5-10 minutes, then goes into the second period, which lasts 20 minutes. After it, there are the third and fourth periods of slow sleep phase. They last up to 40 minutes. After the fourth period, the sleeping person returns again to the second phase. After this, the slow sleep phase ends and the fast sleep phase begins. It is then that dreams begin. On average, with a healthy sleep, the cycle can change up to 5 times per night. Such an algorithm was derived by American neuropsychologists Nathaniel Kleitman and Eugene Osarinsky. According to these scientists, the plot of sleep depends on many factors. For example, if the room is too hot and during the day you are stressed, then most likely you will have a nightmare. Or vice versa, if the climate in the bedroom is optimal and during the day you did not experience any shocks, then you will have pleasant dreams. But these are only guesses of scientists, as well as the fact that if you wake up at the time of a quick phase of sleep, then most likely you will experience sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is a transitional state of the body when a person falls asleep or wakes up. It is accompanied by stiffness of the muscles. A person feels as if someone or something is holding him and does not allow him to move. This extremely unpleasant state can last from 2 seconds to 2 minutes. It is often accompanied by hallucinations. That is why the phenomenon of sleep paralysis is shrouded in many myths and scary stories about poltergeists and other evil spirits. But according to scientists, this is a fairly harmless phenomenon. The thing is that the brain has not yet fully woken up to realize that it was sleeping. By the way, about 75% of the world's population experienced sleep paralysis. He has a borderline state, his consciousness fails completely, he falls into the zone of the unconscious, and it may even be a complete mess. If you took an alternative version of the appearance of human nightmares, then many esotericists are inclined to believe that through a dream evil enters the soul of a person. It is in a dream that a person does not control his thoughts and actions, which means that he becomes easy prey for dark forces. Bad dreams. They're also called nightmares. If we talk about the etymology of the word, about the history of origin, then the word nightmare is officially interpreted with reference to the ancient goddess Mare, who sent all sorts of images in a dream and caused harm to people. My interpretation of the word nightmare, koshmar in Russian, it is with an emphasis of the first word on the word kosh. From ancient Turkic, it means walking, moving, wandering, koshu, kosh. In a dream, this is exactly the same middle state, when a person is neither there nor here, and both there and here at the same time.
Чем интересна героиня скандинавских мифов Мара?
What is interesting about the character of the Scandinavian myths, Mara? We already know what sleep paralysis is, so in ancient times people believed that the demon Mara sits on the chest of a sleeping person and strangles him with her weight. It's familiar, isn't it? For the Greeks, it was Ephialt. For the Romans, the female demon Incubus. In Slavic mythology, Kikimora. People believe that these creatures can not only harm human health, but even take their life. Sleep began to be associated with death. Alternative researchers in their arguments refer to the folklore of many peoples, where sleep is compared to death. So in Russian fairy tales, there is a cat, Bayun. With his speeches and songs, he chatters a traveler who falls asleep. As soon as the hero falls asleep, the cat immediately attacks and eats him up. Or, for example, such a harmless character in European fairy tales as Joly. He comes to the children at night and shows them good dreams. But this cute character can be very easily confused with another, much more sinister. Another terrible moment, which is so much in Andersen's way, Joly has a brother who's very similar to him. This is death, and all cultures of the world also agreed on this, that the brother of sleep is death. Sleep is very similar to death, because in a dream we go somewhere into a completely different reality, into a completely different world. For nomads, sleep is also a reality, but an alternative one, a world that lives by its clear laws and rules. According to the worldview of nomads, the universe is divided into three parts, three worlds. These three levels are connected by a world tree grown through them. And a dream is nothing but an opportunity to travel to these other realities that cannot be visited in an awake state.
Если большинство конфессий, та же самая наука считает, что сон это определенные.
If most faiths and the same signs believe that sleep is the certain phases in which the brain is located and rests, recovers, then nomads and Turkic people treated dreams as a whole world. That is, it was not an illusionary one, not some kind of fiction or one of any legends. It was an absolutely real material world, the same as ours, and on this basis, people had a very reverent attitude to dreams.
Такой подход кочевников ко снам очень похож.
This approach of nomads to dreams is very similar to the once expressed theory by Plato, the world of ideas. It lies in the fact that ideas do not arise in the heads of people, but exist as independent objects. Later, a similar theory was expressed by academician Vernadsky. He suggested that there is a certain area where all the knowledge of mankind is stored and it can be accessed under certain conditions. Noosphere. This theory is known in scientific circles. However, Vernadsky is not the first to voice this concept. The primacy in the introduction of the term noosphere belongs to Edouard Leroy, the French philosopher and mathematician. It was he who agreed with Plato that there is a certain database, a world bank of knowledge, or perhaps some other space filled with information.
Однозначно, сон – это путешествие. И тем глубже это...
Definitely a dream is a journey, and this journey can be very deep. It was the nomads who could take possession of it, for whom all life is a journey. Even life itself is a journey, a temporary trip to a certain territory. Is it possible to become a genius thanks to sleep?
История знает немало примеров, когда во сне были придуманы гениальные произведения живописи, литературы.
History knows many examples when in a dream brilliant works of painting, literature, or music were invented. For example, the popular tale that Dmitry Mendeleev saw his famous table of chemical elements in a dream. In fact, everything was completely different. The scientist wrote the names of these elements on the card and in his office, on the table, laid them out according to the mass, a kind of solitaire. March 1st, 1869, the table was ready and Dmitry Ivanovich sent it to the printing house. The myth that Mendeleev had a dream about the periodic table appeared after the scientist's death. This was told in his memoirs by a Russian traveler, geologist, professor of St. Petersburg University, Alexander Inostrantsev. Allegedly, he once came to Mendeleev for tea, and Mendeleev shared with him that in a dream he saw a table. There are no other references to this case. Moreover, this version was put forward only 40 years after the table was ready. Chemists and historians know that Mendeleev had an extraordinary sense of humor and therefore admit that Dmitry Ivanovich just played with his friend. We must not forget that the scientist worked for several years on the table day and night, and naturally, he could have dreamed about it. I would not ignore what comes to us in a dream because, nevertheless, I am more inclined to believe that this is stress that has accumulated and it is desirable to resolve it. It means to understand what the brain wants to show. According to many researchers of sleep in the world, there are many works of literature and painting, the images of which came to the authors when they slept. So, for example, the famous painting by Salvador Dali, Dream Caused by the Flight of a Bee Around a Pomegranate, a second before awakening. This work is considered the best among the artist's works. Dali wrote it at Cape Cruz, as he claimed it was there that he was able to find the real material basis of dreams. But not only creative people can have great ideas during sleep. For example, the inventor of a sewing machine, an American engineer, Elias Howe, had a dream that he was surrounded by savages on a desert island. They pointed spears at him. The engineer in a dream noticed that the tips of the spears at the base have holes. The inventor immediately woke up and sketched such a structure of the tips. So the problem on which the engineer thought for a long time was solved. A needle appeared for a mechanical sewing machine, the look of which has not changed until now. There was such a remarkable genre in the Middle Ages, a special one in Chinese and Korean literature, a dream novel which represented such a standard plot scheme. Some higher beings, let's call them fairies, they feast somewhere, drink nectar in some kind of, say, jade pavilion in heaven. And suddenly they became interested in the life of people on earth. They come to the edge of the jade pavilion, begin to discuss how people live on earth, and the higher deities punish them. They throw them to the ground. They all are born on earth as perfectly normal people. They live, as a rule, on earth a very difficult life, and they, as a rule, do not remember that they were some fairies. They live like normal people, and when they die on earth in old age, at that very moment they wake up in their jade pavilion in heaven and say, "What a horror, what a terrible dream we had, that we were people on earth. We will never ask there again." In this work, sleep was seen as real life, and our existence, on the contrary, was just a fantasy. In general, such a hypothesis has become very popular recently. Many esotericists came to the conclusion that our world is unreal, that this is an illusion modeled by some higher mind or machines. Such a plot is taken as a basis in the famous trilogy The Matrix, once brothers and now sisters Wachowski. The authors of the film masterpiece, without hiding, in one of the interviews stated that our world is unreal and therefore they can be here both men and women. This is what determines the change in their gender.
Еще один известный американский режиссер как-то рассказал, что
Another famous American director once said that much that he sees in a dream he subsequently uses in creating his films. James Cameron opened up and told the public that he saw in a dream most of the landscapes and animals in the movie Avatar. History knows a lot of interesting facts when revelations in a dream come to Kazakhstani poets and celebrities. The cultural expert Berdaly Osman told us about it.
У многих великих людей обязательно в жизни присутствуют сны. У многих поэтов.
Many great people always have dreams in their lives. Many poets, when you read their biography, there they dream about why they became poets. In the south, there was the famous poet Mail Koja, one of the three teachers of Akın Jambul.
Один из трех учителей Акына Жамбула. Он во сне увидел тоже старца. Старец его спросил: «Куген аласың ба? Өлең аласың ба?»
In a dream, he saw an old man. The elder asked him, Kogen alasın ba? Olen alasın ba? Kogen means grass, that is something material. Do you take wealth? Olen means poem. That is, it is a symbol of art, and so the old man asks, will you take wealth or art? And he wakes up and says, Olen alamın, I will take art. And he became a great poet.
«Өлең аламын, я возьму искусство, я возьму искусство». И он стал великим поэтом.
Kazakh poet Maili Koja Sultan Kojaoli was born in 1835 in the territory of the current Kızılkum district of Turkestan region. From an early age, he began to write poetry and songs. He wrote down something just went to the people. In addition to creating poems and songs, he collected poet-folk legends. Having accumulated a huge amount of folklore, he transferred this material to the ethnographer Abubakir Divayev. Much of what was collected was also about dreams. There's a huge number of dream books written both in ancient Greece and relatively modern. The works on the interpretation of sleep written by Freud, Jung, and Miller are especially popular among esotericists. For example, 85 people see a cat in a dream and something had happened in their future. That is statistics. So signs were recorded. Although I don't really believe in dream books, because how do you think the human brain, the subconscious, communicate with us? It communicates with us with symbols, and so each person has his own signs. According to researchers, dreams are very individual. Of course, it happens that people see the same image, but its decryption depends on many factors. The nature, gender, age, and even the geographical position of the person who saw some particular dream.
Мир снов очень разнообразен, и я скажу даже так, что он даже...
The world of dreams is very diverse. Even within the boundaries of present-day Kazakhstan, it is very different. If a certain dream in the south of Kazakhstan does not portend anything bad but speaks of something good, then in the west of Kazakhstan this can be considered a bad omen. Sometimes dreams are very closely connected with a language which is really based on the harmony of some images, words that call these realities, and what this dream portends. Well, for example, it is believed that to see a horse, loshed in Russian, in a dream is a prediction of some kind of deception. All because the word loshed is consonant with the word losh, which means lie. I nevertheless adhere to the point of view that each person has his own individual system of symbols, which does not always coincide with the generally accepted ones, and sometimes these dreams indeed turn out to be so significant they offer some information to a person apparently for reflection. A mystical story happened with another famous person, Kanish Satpayev. Throughout his life, a Soviet geologist, the founder of Soviet metallogenic science, was skeptical of various mystical events, including information received in dreams. But one day he had a special dream, which he considered prophetic.
Он когда заболел, он в Москве лежал.
Once, while in Moscow, he became very ill, and he said to his daughter, I had a dream. I was high in the mountains in Kazakhstan and I saw the steppe. I felt so good. I'll probably recover and we'll go home. The daughter says, you usually didn't believe in dreams. He says, no. Still, it seems to me that this one is true.
Все-таки мне так кажется.
But Satpayev was mistaken. Literally, a short time later, the scientist passed away. This happened on January the 31st, 1965 in Moscow. His body was transported to Almaty and the scientist was buried on February the 3rd at the Central Cemetery. Many alternative researchers believe that in a dream Satpayev saw the last place of his heaven. In 1968, a monument was erected on the grave of the scientist. According to eyewitnesses, he looks precisely at the mountains.
В жизни таких великих людей очень даже, наверное, играют сны свою роль. Я думаю, что эти...
Probably dreams play a big role in the lives of such great people. I think that dreams play a role in the life of any person because we believe in them.
В семье тоже так было.
It was like that in our family too. NKVD officers should have arrested my grandfather. Miraculously, it turned out that he left to relatives in the middle of the night. And he began to live there. And he worked on the railway. One day, he had a dream. He saw Stalin. Stalin approached all of my grandfather's children. They were all asleep. Stalin came up, stroked their heads, and told my grandfather, Osman Koja, move to the city, give education to your children. And all the children of my grandfather received higher education.
Дети моего дедушки получили высшее образование.
From ancient times, the Kazakhs were a hospitable people despite the fact that often had to fight. The land itself dictated the rules of life. If you live apart, closed, then you simply will not survive in the harsh climate of the endless steppes. Therefore, for centuries, on a subconscious level, the Kazakhs developed a feature to be philosophical about everything. Do not divide into black and white, good and bad.
Казахи во всем видят хорошее. Во всем видят хорошее. Даже Геральд Карлович как-то написал, говорит,
Kazakhs see good in everything. Even Gerald Karlovich once wrote that no matter what happens, the Kazakhs thank life. They say, we live like this. Kazakhs have such a golden rule. If something goes wrong, they say, come on. Even on the worst days, we went to the holidays. And there's some kind of internal strength of the Kazakhs. What to do in order to protect yourself from nightmares? And is it possible to watch dreams in order?
В культуре многих народов мира существуют обереги, цель которых обезопасить человека от порчи.
In the culture of many nations, there are charms, the purpose of which is to protect a person from damage, the evil eye, attacks of a predator, and other unpleasant situations. We will not talk about their effectiveness now. Let's better discuss another amulet that is known almost all over the world. I'm talking about a dream catcher.
Что касаемо сна, оно присутствует во многих традициях, во многих культурах и не только в учении.
Everything related to sleep. It is present in many traditions, in many cultures, and not only among nomads, and not only in Central Asia. Examples include North American Indians and Native American dream catchers. Many people know what it is, many people know what it looks like. A certain number of people know how this works. And there is such a legend that the leader of the North American Indians, if memory serves correctly, the leader of the Lakota tribe, he climbed a high mountain to talk with the gods, and in a dream he saw either a god or a spirit in the form of a spider, a huge, large spider. And he ordered him to make a thing, which is now called a dream catcher. And he said that this thing will protect your dream, will protect you from nightmares. This amulet appeared throughout America almost simultaneously. Subsequently, the Navajo, Lakota, Huron, Cherokee, Iroquois, Ojibwe, and other tribes fought for authorship. Only at the beginning of the 21st century did they manage to come to an agreement. It turned out that the Ojibwe Indians were the first to make dream catchers. An important argument in resolving this dispute was a written description of the amulet. The first was made by the German geographer and traveler Johann Georg, and he lived for a long time in the Ojibwe tribe.
По легенде, этот ловец снов работает каким образом? Он вешается в угловой.
How does the dream catcher work according to legend? It is hanged at the head of a sleeping person, and the symbolization of the catcher itself, a round design with a woven web inside. And it worked as follows. Dreams flew in the form of spirits, and flying over a man, they became entangled in this web. With the first rays of the sun, bad dreams, that is, nightmares, they dissolved, and good during the night, they went down to the person along these feathers and ropes, and the person had good dreams. Initially, this thing was more like a children's amulet, which was hung on the cradles, protected children's sleep, but then traditionally among the Indians it became adult attributes. The prototype of the creation was the spider and cobweb, which he weaves. The Indians considered the spider a sacred insect and a skilled hunter. In addition, according to the tradition of the Ojibwe tribe, the ancestress of their people was the spider Asabikashi, who lived on Turtle Island. Some Native American tribes still call North America Turtle Island.
Пока люди были неопытными,
While the people were inexperienced, the spider Asabikashi took care of them. But as soon as her children matured, they parted on 4 cardinal points and gave birth to their offspring. It was difficult for the spider to get to everyone at the same time, so she made cobwebs to the cradles and cradled all her grandchildren every night. The amulet was made of willow branches, which were bent into a hoop. Then it was tied with animal tendons. Over time, when the willow branches dried out, they tore the tendons that symbolized the transience of youth. The round shape of the dream catcher meant the daily journey of the sun through the sky. There were 8 main rays in the circle that tied to the hoop, as many as the legs of the spider. A feather was attached to the center, most often owls' or eagles' feathers that symbolized breathing and life.
Если у американцев это был чисто такой атрибут для сна, для оберега сна.
If the Americans had this as an attribute for sleep or a talisman of sleep, then Asians, Turks have an analog. It comes from, if my memory serves me, either from Karelian or from Karyak or Nganasan, I do not remember exactly. It is literally translated as a trap. That is, kudgam is a trap, or bait, Turkic kudgam. It also has a round shape. The only difference is weaving, because if the weaving of the American Indians, it is not quite natural, then the Turkic dreamcatcher, he practically copies the ancient ammonite, the shells or twisted horns of a ram. Such dream catchers were common among nomadic tribes in the vastness from Tajikistan to Siberia. Unlike the North American dream catcher, the nomad's amulet was not supposed to sort out the good and bad dreams, but to catch them after mixing them together. Then the shaman could see vivid and prophetic images.
Кудгем делится на определенное количество секторов. Создается такой атрибут. Опять же, в древности это был...
Kudgam is divided into a certain number of sectors. Again, in antiquity, it was a purely shamanistic attribute. And unlike the Indians of America, this attribute worked not only at the head of the bed and not only in a dream. That is, it was an amulet and a talisman and an attribute and a purely personal tool of the shaman through which the shaman could find out some information. For example, find the missing person or find out the outcome of the upcoming battle or some kind of deal, contract, and so on.
конечно, в древности, как и сейчас, было немало.
Of course, in antiquity, as now, there were many skeptics who did not believe in all these portents in a dream. For example, Aristotle believed that dreams reduce the rationality of a man. Cicero compared the state of sleep with intoxication. He urged people to address not the interpreters of sleep, but to go to the professionals in their field. For example, if you have to sail, then ask the sailors who have just arrived at the port, and do not go to the priests. Cicero also believed that dreams could be controlled. Many modern psychiatrists and psychologists are confident that sleep can be programmed. The method is quite simple. Before you go to bed, you need to remember the last dream that you had in detail. The brain must activate the phase that is responsible for the reconstruction of the pictures. And then, when you have restored all the images, model the plot you need. It is important that you feel that the world that surrounds you, such as your bedroom and bed, is already part of the dream and that you are already in the dream. When a certain amount comes together, we receive a certain clot of thoughts. Thought, it is also some kind of energy, and this energy is uniting. The dream management was perfectly shown by American filmmakers in The Inception, with Leonardo DiCaprio in the lead role. It reflects the secret meaning of understanding the dreams of many generations of people from antiquity. There is also the fact that a person is defenseless when he sleeps. There are scenes when strangers infiltrate a person's dream. There are also moments of programming how a person should think. Sleep is a mysterious part of our life.
Сон это неотъемлемая часть жизни.
Sleep is an integral part of our life and culture. One episode is not enough to tell all about its secrets. In the next episode, we will return to this topic again and also learn something else about the prophecies. My name is Andrei Slozhin. It was the Time Puzzle. Those who go to bed, have good dreams. See you.